little girl, daughter, sister, girlfriend, fiance, wife, cousin, mother, auntie, grandmother, great grandmother, elder, disappears, shattering, a family, a community, the world. There is something we can all do. Remember them.
Hello, my friends. Happy Wotan's Day to you. I hope this evening is going along and this week has been amazing for you. I hope that all of your manifestations that you were seeking are coming to fruition. Welcome to Sports Ball. Today we're answering a question from Tara in Minnesota. And she's talking about real relation. And so we'll talk about that and how that interfaces with our everyday life and how we can kind of interface to that to kind of make life more understandable, right? So, as always, I want to start each and every show by saying thank you so much for all of you who have liked, followed, and subscribed us on wherever you happen to find us. Thank you so much for taking a moment. For those of you who haven't had the opportunity, please do so. Hit the magic button, do the secret handshakes, help get our message out even further, help broadcast this to the world, getting it every nook and cranny around the world. So hopefully the right people get to see this message. Sports Ball, as you know, is Wednesday nights. It's a special presentation of Fulfilling This Belly Sneak. And its goal, or my goal, hopefully tonight, is to answer Tara's question as she's asking about real relationships, real relations in our lives. As such, Tara, your t-shirt, wait, over there, over in the corner, there you go. Your t-shirt is on its way to you in the mail, and you receive it in a couple of days. Hopefully, you've got the right color and everything works with your color palette, that you can wear that shirt with pride, knowing that hopefully I gave you an answer that really works. All right, so good luck, and hopefully that shirt will get to you here soon. All right, so today we're talking about real relations, and the way Tara is really addressing this question is kind of understanding our relationship as an individual to there. Thinking about this concept of duality. Many times when we are first conceived, both in the spiritual realm and again in the physical realm, we operate into this understanding of singularity. It's just us. Everything around us is part of us. And it's not until we begin to discern the differences between the singularity and the duality of life that things start coming together. So, when we're thinking about Tara's question here, is we're thinking about the four pieces of real relation. The first one, obviously, is the relationship with ourselves, right? So remember, we have two parts. We have both our physical part and our spiritual part. Those two are bonded together for a physical lifetime. So that relationship. Then we have the lands all around us. And the lands all around us, when we talk about the lands around us, we're really in reference to, obviously, Mother Yord or Mother Earth, however you relate to her. But in my case, I really connect with a different group of spirits known as, in legend and lore of the Norse, as the Levetar, okay, or the Lemvati. These were spirits that inhabited the lands, and their goal, job, desires were to kind of maintain interactivity between the spirits of the earth, everything on it, whether it be human or not. So their job, their desire is to create that bridge between those two dynamics. Now, so I really include the Landvedi when speaking of relationships with the lands. So I include the Landvedi there. Now, Others is the third object that we're talking about here with real relations, and this is our relationship with other physical beings as just as important as other spiritual beings, whether they be bonded to a physical form or not. Okay, so how we create that dynamic, right? And then ultimately, kind of along the same line, if you will, is the idea of the fourth token there, and that is the unseen or unknown. Now, in times past, unknown was not such a panicky kind of thing. It was just, all right, I don't know it. And it's not until I have some interactivity with either it or someone who has experienced it that I can actually gain those experiences. So the process of getting that unseen into a seen state. So in many examples, our relationships kind of fall in that order. The first thing we have to have is a relationship with ourselves. We have to know who we are. This is established many times, but thinking about the entirety of who we are, right? So it's not that we're just this physical form. That's a very small fraction of our existence. Our spiritual entity is much larger and kind of is connected to us, bonded to us, but also lives, inhabits the spiritual realm. So they're not here on this physical realm with us, they're on the spiritual realm, but they're connected to us through our spiritual self. So they're going to connect through their interactivity with us, essentially kind of works through our memories. The experiences that we've gained in this lifetime are shared between our physical brain and our spiritual brain. Right? So, super important that we understand our role in this scenario is simply to understand that dynamic, that interactivity that happens between our physical and our spiritual brain. Remember, one of the objectives there when we're talking about understanding why our spiritual brain is connected to our memories, it's to share those memories, right? So if we back up and we back way up and we consider ourselves momentarily for the creation or assembly of our spiritual self, which is simply a bundle, lack of a better word, a bundle of energy particles that are formed together in such a way they create this thing called a consciousness or a self-awareness, right? So when they become self-aware, that moment the lights come on, they live in a singularity. They have no idea. They think all of the intellect and all of the imagery and all of the experiences that they're able to see through this imagery and the intellect they've gathered, they think they've done that. They kind of, it's there, so it must mean that I had interactivity with it. So there's a very singularity type of thinking. It's not until we discover different perspectives of the same, maybe even the same intellect or the same imagery, and now we're getting a different perspective, that we realize, our consciousness realizes, that there's an us and them, right? So we become, from a singularity, we split into a duality. Now, as I draw that vision or that visual for you, what are you reminded of? What else in our lives does that? How about the cells in your body? Coincidence? I think not. A cell, the way it actually continues to thrive is that it splits and then one dies off. Splits, one dies off. Splits, one dies off. And it continues this process. Very much the same way as forming from the singular cell, singular duality. Singular duality. And that process will continue throughout our physical lifetimes. So, notice one of the things that has really come to my forefront of my thinking anyway, as the more I've communicated with the ancestors and certainly my ancestries, is this idea that nothing is different. Nothing is so unique and new and totally out of left field. That's just not how the universe works. Everything is similar, right? So we think about our existence of being a physical and emotional being bonded together with a spiritual being. What does that represent? Well, of course, that's the atom or the atomic structure. Our physical life and our emotional life form the nucleus. All right. We have protons and neurons. All right. They form the nucleus. And then floating on the outside, or at the spiritual level, is our electron. So nothing's really different, wild. Yeah, that it really does follow this trend or follow this process that the universe has discovered in intellectual form and certainly in experiential form, right? So we've learned that this is how everything works, right? And so when we talk about our singularity splitting into a duality, notice we have another parallel between that and a cellular evolution or a cellular growth. So there's a lot of similarities in a lot of different processes. And so that's good to know. So when we're talking about the relationship that we have with ourselves, again, we're our nucleus, right? Our physical and our emotional is now bonding with or connecting to our spiritual self. And once we understand that relationship and we can kind of interact in through our memories using that relationship, I think it's safe to say that we can now assume that we have control of the first of the four levels, right? And that's the self. I've heard countless times, particularly in those times where I may have had a low self-esteem or I may have lost all my confidence years ago. You have to love yourself for someone else to love you, was paraphrasing, but that was the idea. It's true. It's true, by the way, hands down. You must have this relationship to fully be loved, to fully embrace the power of love. You have to have this relationship with the self. Okay? Now, moving into the second phase of this understanding, as we absorb and we embrace this idea of the lands and the spirits therein, this also kind of speaks to our environment, right? So kind of what are we interpreting from our environment, right? So I'm always reminded of people who accidentally find themselves in the wilderness, and they're just not wilderness people. They're urban people, and they find themselves in this wilderness situation, and they're like deer in the headlights, right? So they really don't, because they've grown up with a very different relationship between them and the lands. And so that relationship, in some cases, has been severed, has been severed altogether, and no longer exists. So we have to rebuild it. We have to reform it as we go forward. Okay. So understanding your relationship in the environment simply points out the fact of how we're interpreting the environment, the world around us, whatever that world may look like, whether it be the urban world, whether it be the natural world, whatever. How is that environment relating to us that we can now understand that relationship and reciprocate? So item number 2 is, of course, the lands, and understanding our place in the world, in all of existence. Understanding our place is a great way to help us to establish peace of mind. Helps to kind of really taper things down, kind of push away all those influences that would convince us otherwise. Now, the third level is probably, because many people have not accomplished the second, the third level is going to be even more challenging, right? It's going to be even more difficult because without the land, it's hard for us to communicate to each other back and forth, and especially if we're not using the physical realm, we're using the spiritual realm, it becomes increasingly complicated and difficult. Not to say it can be done, simply saying it becomes more complicated. Because now you're open to a lot more interference and influences that can alter the signaling between you, right? So if I were to take a Dixie cup and 2 Dixie cups and then run a string between them, and if the string was tight and I said hello in one end, you'd hear it at the other end, right? Because the sound's going to travel down the strings. But if I were to snip it or grab it, like so, grab the string, what's going to happen? Well, of course, I'm interfering with that sound wave traveling down the string. I essentially kill the communication. Same thing is going to apply with influences and some of this other energy that are going to kind of come between you, particularly if you have not made or understood the relationship with the lands. So relationship with self, relationship with lands, then we can have relationship with others. Yay! Right? Whether they be in physical form or not. Now, the fourth one becomes where a lot of people like using the word faith. I have faith that this is going to occur. I have faith. I'm trying to direct the unseen to happen in my life. So I have faith that this is going to occur. Okay. Remember, though, when you have faith, faith is merely another manifestation of a cast spell. It's no different than a prayer. Okay? So we're just going to cast out our prayer or cast out our spell to manifest some type of thing in the future. And this is the unseen. So we're trying to manage the unseen in our favor. Okay? Not a big deal. But it needs energy. Where is the energy coming from? Now, in the Norse legends and lore, we spoke of the 2 different types of magicians, whether you be a spellcraft or a seether magician. Really depended on whether you were producing the energy or whether you were casting it out and asking others to assist you in creating enough energy to bring this thing to manifestation. Those were the 2 kind of camps, if you will, as far as providing energy for this manifestation of this unseen. Okay? So, super important that we understand that these levels of real relations are kind of, a lot of times we draw them in the horizontal, but really they're really on the vertical. right? And so it's like a set of steps. You got to step on that first one, have a relationship with self, to get to the next step, which is the relationship with the lands, to get to the next step, which is the relationship with others, to get to that last step, which is the relationship with the unseen, right? So there's kind of these real relation steps that we're going to kind of climb in our lives. All right, I need to take a quick commercial. I'm getting cross looks here. I need to take a real quick commercial break. When we come back, I want to talk to you about how we can implement these real relation steps in our lives every day. A good way, maybe even an exercise that I use each and every day to make sure that these four parts of my relationship understanding are in tight with me every day. So we'll talk about that when we come back. We'll be right back after this.
The time is now.
We're all waking up.
We're waking up.
We're all waking up.
It's all shifting.
New vibrations.
It's you.
It's you.
It's me.
It's all of us.
Together.
A new time.
A new day.
A new energy.
A new energy.
New reality.
Awaken with us.
Awaken with us.
Awaken with us.
NewRealityTV.com.
All right, I'm glad you made it back. And as always, I really want to give another huge shout out to my friends and family at New Reality TV. New Reality TV, those guys are fantastic. They're awesome. There is a huge collection of different spiritual perspectives there. And hopefully you will find one there that resonates with you and that you can find answers of those questions that have been nagging you for a while now. All right, so go check them out, newrealitytv.com. You will not be disappointed. All right, let's talk about the four portions of our real relations. And we talked about the first one, which is that relationship we have with the self. And as always with the self takes meditation. We've got to do some deep dives. We've got to understand what's in our heart. We've got to understand what's in our memories. We've got to kind of connect those two and make sure that we're dealing with our authentic self. We want to be as authentic as we can, right? We want to just seek out that authenticity and really live an existence of congruence, right? Where we're thinking what we're feeling what we're thinking, right? So those two are in check. So that relationship is first and foremost. Now, how do you do that? Well, obviously, you're going to take some time in meditation, some deep contemplation as to, what are your values, your virtues, and your belief systems? How are those affecting what you see? And again, you got to remember our thought process. What mood are you in? Is how things are going to be interpreted. So all of these things kind of take a little bit of understanding. So the first step in getting a real relation, Tara, is to understand who you are and what you believe, what you feel, what are the parts that make you you. Okay? After you've got that, and you'll know, many people say, well, how do you know when you're in love? You know. There's just not any questions. You'll know. Well, the same thing is going to apply for your relationship with yourself. When you have a relationship with yourself and it's in good, guess what? You're going to know. You're going to feel it. You're going to just know. You're going to be authentic. You're going to be happy. You're going to be kind of in our default mindset, which is happy, harmonious, and content. Okay. All right, so we've got ourselves down. Now, how do we get with the lands? Well, the lands takes a little bit of practice. Is a great word, and we're going to use that word by spending some time actually interfacing with the earth. I know, but when's the last time you actually walked in your grass or your yard or a park in bare feet, where you were actually making contact with Mother Earth? Not AstroTurf, real grass, connected to the dirt, connected to Mother Earth. When was the last time? Okay, this is a big piece. The Earth, at Mother Yord particularly, has a way of seeping energy in through our skin. I'm always reminded of myself as a child. I grew up in the Northeast, and well, some of my life, my early childhood, and I have one memory of just laying in the snow, just flat out, spread eagle, laying in the snow, and it was snowing. Snowflakes were falling on me. And granted, I had the mind of a child at the time, but it was peaceful. And I could feel the earth. I could feel her heartbeat. And so my recommendation to you, of course, is to spend some time in contact with Mother Yord. Whether you're sitting, whether you're standing, whether you're laying, however you're making contact with her, with the ground. Okay? Feel her. Embrace her. Right? A great exercise, like I say, is take some time each day to just spend some time walking in bare feet, in grass, or in the dirt, maybe even the mud, just to make contact with Mother Yord. The goddess Yord, by the way, was recognized by the Norse as what we would refer to as Midgard or Earth. She was the goddess of Midgard. Third thing is our relationship with others, and this is where we have to be vulnerable. We have to open ourselves up to what people are going to offer us, whether they be in physical form or not. We have to be open to that, and taking some time to just let down your guard. Just spend some time maybe in contemplation, in meditation, where you're just letting down your guard and just be at ease and see and just hear and listen. Listen not with these, but with this. What are you feeling? What are you hearing? Those are very classic methodologies of communication by our ancestors. Is right through our heart. So spend some time, quiet contemplation, thinking about the ancestors, thinking about others, maybe in your life, maybe friends and family. Think about them and their happiness and their joy. Think about all of these things that you really want to see come to fruition. And you will help foster it. Finally, the unseen. The unseen, there are two ways you can relate to the unseen. One way is, as many of my ancestors would have done, is simply ignore it. Go about your daily business and never accomplish that fourth layer. Never get there. And it's okay. It's, everything that you need or wanted, you could put your hands on and you made work. Okay. Or you can totally invest yourself in it. And by that I mean simply, again, going back to the quiet contemplation and meditation, is think about those things that are going to occur in the future. Think of those things that you want to occur in the future. And how can you affect change, right? How can you manipulate that? How can you kind of put energies in the right place along the way to actually bring this to fruition? And so this is kind of the methodology at which we use now to understand the four layers of real relations. And so I hope this has helped you, Tara. Again, I look forward to having a dialogue. If it doesn't, or if you still have more questions, by all means, fire back an email, let me know. For the rest of you, if you haven't had a chance yet, right there is the button. It's at the bottom of my website to the left, and you hit that button right there. They'll bring up a form. You can submit your question. If I make a show out of your question, I'll send you a shirt right there. That fella right there is wearing it for you, just to model it. Make sure. I think I have one in my closet too. But be sure to ask those questions. Don't be shy. Remember, if you're suffering or you're struggling with some ideas, chances are other people are too. So by you asking your question and by us discussing it and opening that dialogue, we're actually hopefully providing a solution to not just yourself, but to many others as well. All right. This has been Spork Small, and I want to say how much I appreciate each and every one of you, and I am so thankful that you've stayed with me. I look forward to seeing you first thing tomorrow, where we'll talk about Thor and some wonderful energy to get our day going when we come online with Forfellinus Belly Snake. So that's at 7 a.m. Tomorrow morning, right here on YouTube or TikTok or wherever you're watching. Be sure to dial in and check that out. You will not be disappointed, hopefully. And in the meantime, for those of you who may have more questions about me, my show, or anything about me, you can check out northwhispers.com, and there you'll be directed. You can go check out either me, or you can check out all my videos and certainly the teachings that I've put online. So be sure to check all those out, and like, follow, and subscribe if you haven't had a chance, and I will hopefully get to hear a question from you, and we'll get you a free shirt on the way. All right? I wish you the very best remainders of your Wootens Day. We will see you again tomorrow for Thor's Day. Love and light, my friends.
You've been watching Forfellinus Belly Snake, a special production of Whispers of the Norse. Brought to you by the Alaska akulfhednar in South Central Alaska. Guidance and wisdom, courtesy of an ancient Celtic Norse shaman. Thank you so much for